All right, everybody, this will be warning to all politicians. I'm running for president 2024, part, say 102 or something, 103. I'll have to check. But I want to go over a few things. First of all, another thing about that movie plot with, I think, Cherry Claus, is it? Would make a good lead-in about a physicist in the future who has to go back in time, figures out how to go back in time and find his grandfather. He's got to prove to his grandfather, who he is and stuff. And so, like, he part of the plot would be like, and let's suppose his not his grandfather, his great grandfather, something like that. The world is falling apart in the future. The leftist agenda and all their weird and crazy stuff is really taking over, and there's about to be this world leader, leftist madman taking over everything. There's been a war or some more plagues type stuff in between, and this is like going right to the edge. If this guy comes into power, then there might be, total world war, excuse me, and all that, and maybe the end of everything. So Terry decides, his character decides he's got to go back and warn the people about the future and the agendas and stuff, and the turns that history has made. Tell them not to go down that road, and maybe even do like, you hear people talk about, what if you could go back and kill Hitler before? So maybe even go back and see if they can get rid of some of these people who take the world down this dark path. But he's got to find his great grandfather and get his help, because he's a physicist also. So the only thing he has, right, and you could even make, you can make a plot, little plot twist, his great grandfather could be white, to make it like even more hard for him to believe Terry's story. So, but like all Terry has is like this letter, this tattered letter, and maybe a photograph of, like, so he's going back to talk to his great grandfather, and maybe his son or whatever, right? Terry goes back, he's talking to him, he's explaining who he is. This guy doesn't, he doesn't believe him, and he shows him this picture of his great grandfather. He shows a picture of his great grandfather's son, like swinging or something at the park in this old picture, and this old tattered letter. And so the great grandfather is like, where'd you get that picture of my son, this and that, and he's never seen it before. And pretty much he gets the law, and he gets Terry dragged out of there and stuff, and all this. But then, like, the next day, his great grandfather's wife comes back from, like, visiting relatives, and has that picture of her, their son, like, swinging in a swing, the same picture that Terry had. And so then that kind of like blows his mind. He's like, holy mackerel. So you take that plot twist there, throw that in there. I thought that'd be all right. And then so going back to, like, immigration and stuff and illegals, and everybody, and like I said, this, it's slavery in the modern world in the USA, how they do it and how they handle these illegals and stuff, and you hear all the arguments and things, and it's really condescending, snooty tone coming from the elite on the left about, oh, how they take jobs nobody wants and this and that. And it even comes, hey, it comes from white Americans, black Americans, Mexican Americans. Oh, they're just coming, they're just working, they're just doing jobs nobody wants. And granted, hey, I can understand fully the desire for somebody to, leave Mexico and come here and to work, and to be able to take care of their families. There's nothing wrong with that on face value, but they're being taken advantage of, and that's why the whole push has got to be, you got to come legally. You've got to come legally. We have to know who's in the country. You come legally, you're going to be able to, have a better life. If you come illegally, you're going to be, used and abused by these people. You're going to have, crap jobs with crap pay, with no benefits, anything like that. And these people, then they turn all these illegals to go to the state and get, welfare and medical and Social Security and all this and everything like that. And it's a huge burden on the system, whether they want to admit it or not. And a lot of these politicians are being paid. Their contributors are the people who use these illegals. It's a big racket, and people on both sides of the border, politicians and companies and small business and stuff, making a fortune off of these illegals and the hardships they endure. And whether people like AOC are just naive and don't know everything, or, she's one of the ones getting money to, hey, keep the cheap labor flowing north. She's getting paid. Keep the cheap labor flowing north. So, but you say you're against slavery and all that, but then you're like, hey, they're just coming and doing jobs nobody else wants and all this. It's slavery. And you know what? In 10 or 20 years down the road, what you will hear coming from the illegals, all the aliens, and you can bet the Democrats will be right on top of it to support them in it. Which, by the way, the Democrats who are supporting this, bringing in the cheap labor and everything like that, were the party of slavery and cheap labor, weren't they? So it's no wonder they're still lockstep with this whole concept. But what we're going to hear is how America, especially white America, got rich and enriched themselves by taking advantage of Hispanics and Mexicans. That's what we're going to hear. Are we going to hear reparations from them too? Because it'll come sooner or later about how we got rich and, white people got rich off the using of Mexicans and other Hispanics from other countries as cheap labor, as slave labor. And, we're just going to hear it all over again. And then the Democrats will be right there, like they are now. Hey, we got to pay reparations. We got to do this. We got to do that. These people were mistreated. And they're the ones who want to bring them in so they can be mistreated. I guarantee you, that's what you're going to hear. The same crap. How we got rich, how white people benefited by the hardships of these Mexican illegals and all this and everything. Instead of going after, there's probably white people who benefited who own, big farms, agriculture, meat packing plants, whatever, the corporations. And there's also probably black Americans and Mexican Americans who are benefiting right now from illegal labor. Right now. Hey, you're a black businessman, you own a restaurant or whatever like this, and you're all on the left, and hey, here's these illegals, you're going to give them a job. There ain't nothing wrong with a man trying to take care of his family, and so you can give him a job cooking or whatever and everything. Hey, no problem. I understand that. I can see that. But by the same token, are you paying them? Are you giving benefits and everything else? Or are you taking advantage of them just like you complain about how African Americans were taken advantage of? So can everybody see my point on that? And the other thing was I saw a thing with ABL, Anthony Brian Logan was debating some other guy on, I think it was RT, about California passed this new affirmative action law and stuff, saying there had to be at least 3 minority people and 3 women on the boards of companies and all this and everything. Well, what if there's a company and it was started by African Americans or something, or Hispanics, or suppose they have Hispanics and Mexicans on the board and stuff? Is there the same type of law saying you got to have 3 white people? What if there's no white people on the board of that company? What if there's no white people in the upper management of that company? Is there the same law guaranteeing white people will also have a job in that company at the top levels for white men? Is there? We're supposed to be a land of equal protection, aren't we? So the thing with this type of thing and what Anthony Brian Logan was arguing is you got to let freedom, people make their own choices, and people who are qualified, work their way into jobs and stuff and everything. And you don't want the government dictating everything because they make a mess of everything, and that takes away your freedom. So like before I said about these inner cities and the rundown cities and stuff, and one of my other ones, this plan would be like kind of like an FDR thing. We just print the money, we go in, we rebuild these rundown neighborhoods and stuff, and rundown warehouse districts, make them useful again, and all this. And instead of it being public housing, these tenements where people have no stake in their future and stuff, we make these houses and then we sell them to the people from those neighborhoods, and they pay their rent to the state or to the federal government or whatever, and it's like a 10-year deal. They can't sell the home for 10 years. They're getting it at a discount. Their mortgage payments are at a discount and everything. And then at 10 years, if they want to sell it and get the equity out of it and everything, more power to them. But this would be the end-all of end-alls of, like a New Deal type thing. And if you want to call it welfare or whatever, or assistance, this would be the end of it all. This is what we're going to do. We're going to throw in all this money. We're going to rebuild everything, and then it's sink or swim for everybody. If you go and you sell your house and make a bunch of money and then go blow it in Vegas or on what have you, that's it. There's no do handouts. And this is the point. Like ABL and almost say Condoleezza Rice, Candace Owens make about, and other people, you hear them say, they'll use the term, get off the Democratic plantation, get off the the whole give me something bit and everything. And I can see their point, because really, if you're constantly depending on the government and handouts and everything, aren't you kind of like the slave on the plantation, dependent on the slave owner, dependent on the plantation, giving you everything you need to live? Aren't you? Instead of being independent and making your own way, making your own choices. So that's why I think instead of doing it the way I said, on that way, I also brought up a thing called, call it the African American Investment Corporation. How about instead of the government going in and rebuilding all this, you got all these wealthy athletes and celebrities and all kinds of people, and you can even sell stock in that company, the African American Investment Corporation. You don't have to be black to buy stock in it. But they go in, they start renovating these neighborhoods and flipping homes and building new places for business and stuff like this, and help black entrepreneurs get businesses started, and they rebuild neighborhoods and all this using their money and the money people who invest in it. Maybe that would even be a better way. I know some people say, well, that's, you're looking at the type of money you're talking about and everything. That's impossible for private investment to do it all. Maybe you're right. Maybe you get some government investment, tax dollars in it. But if you do it where you sell stock to where African Americans, anybody can buy stock in it, but I'm talking, to help African Americans out and have some kind of investment thing where they get a return, investing in themselves and their own communities, building homes and apartment buildings and places of business and stuff like this, instead of, the public housing and stuff like that, that end up just being dens of drug and gangs and crime and everything, and no one has a vested stake in anything that goes on there of having a future. This way people will be investing in their own future. Instead of all these people, they put on a t-shirt and flap their gums. Well, here, why don't you do something? You have the wherewithal, you have the money. Instead of going out and buying, these rappers, instead of going out and buying a $1 million car or a $200,000 car, and flaunting it and everything like this, or, talking about how they go to the club and make it rain and all this and everything. Why don't you do something? Everyone goes, oh, Breonna Taylor, what happened to her? Why didn't you, where were you before this all happened for her? Maybe you can get together, Oprah and Gayle King and people and everything, and make an organization that helps these girls get away from their dope dealing boyfriends and not be in those situations. Because let's not all be naive and let's not all play stupid here. That she didn't know what kind of situation she's in, and people who deal drugs don't know what kind of situations they're in. That at any time, the cops could kick the door in. They're well aware that can happen. But where were all you people to get her and her children out of that situation before it happened? Her friends, her family, who knew what was going on? Where were you? Why didn't you get her out of that situation? Get her some help so she could get out of that situation. The only reasonable reply to that is, well, she didn't want help. She didn't want out of that situation. We tried, or we didn't try at all. So I'm just tired of the hypocrisy. I'm tired of the bullshit. I'm tired of the people who flap their gums and beat around the bush about the real issues and the truth, and just want to point the finger at the cops and society and white people and everything else. It's like, let's go. It's 2020. Enough of this horse shit. Tired of politicians like Joe Biden. You ain't black if you don't vote for me. Really? And you're calling Trump the racist and the one who's dividing people and causing division. What happened to why can't we just be all Americans and forget about the color when we're campaigning for election and stuff? Why all the pandering to different demographics or to the homosexuals and stuff and everything like this? Why can't you just campaign as an American that's going to do for all Americans? Why can't we just be Americans? Why do we have to be white Americans, black Americans, African Americans, what have you? Why can't we just be Americans? Why does the news media and politicians and stuff always have to, throw race and all this other crap in the mix? It's a lot better when we're just all Americans. So the last thing I wanted to touch on was I heard a radio show this morning. These guys were talking about, and I kind of touched on this when I talk about people who go and they get their student loans and all this and everything, and then they get BAs and bullshit. They get their degrees but can't find jobs, so they write books and go on lecture things, and that's how they make their living. They got to find something to rail against, and so you'll go see them, and they can collect their fees for their bullshit. So apparently these I don't know if they're psychiatrists, sociologists, whatever the hell they were. The radio station guys, the DJs, were on the morning show talking about this article. I guess that these quacks went out and wrote about that if men who hunt do it to make up for some kind of sexual inadequacy. So another attack on predominantly white males. And it's bullshit. And, so then these DJs were kind of going over about, yeah, you don't need that, to go and to get meat and all this and everything. And people, they're making fun of people who hunt and stuff and everything. It's like, you know what? You're making fun of your own, like, great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather. There's nothing wrong with keeping the tradition of knowing how to put food on the table and living off the land. Because not too very long ago, you go back to the 40s, the only way people got meat is if their neighbor was a farmer, or they went out and hunted, or they themselves had some livestock, some chickens or some hogs they were raising. You understand that? There was no refrigeration. There was no grocery store in every corner. People might have had ice boxes, but most people, had root cellars and this and that. And, most meats were salted and smoked. It's not like you could go to McDonald's, even into the 50s, even after there was McDonald's. A lot of the country, there's still awful lot of people who the only way they put meat on their table is if they went out and hunted, or if they knew somebody who raised livestock, or they raised livestock themselves. And so it should be apparent to these quacks who wrote this article that every culture in the world hunts. It's how we survived. So are you going to go tell the Native Americans who still hunt to keep their traditions alive and stuff that they're doing it because of sexual inadequacies? Are you going to go up and tell the Inuit and the Eskimos and stuff, and hey, the only reason you hunt is for your sexual inadequacies? Are you going to go to South America to them tribes and stuff who live in the jungles who still go and hunt for their food? It's because of their sexual inadequacies. How about you going to go to Africa and tell them Bushmen who go out and hunt for their food every day that there's something wrong with it? It means they're sexually frustrated. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people who knew how to hunt 60, 70 years ago. Your grandfathers and stuff would have croaked. I don't hunt, but I'm not going to fault somebody who does. Unless it's like them big game, trophy hunters that want to go kill a giraffe or a lion or something just for the hell of it. But whether you take the meat and use it for your family yourself, or you give it to some, shelter or food bank or something, there's nothing wrong with it. So another attack by these quacks who just want to demonize the white male in this country. If you're a gun owner and you go hunting, it's because you're sexually frustrated or inadequate. What a bunch of bullshit. What a bunch of bullshit. But that's what you get from the left. And that's what I mean about these people with BAs and bullshit who go around. Got nothing better to do. They just need to make money. So they write articles and write books and they go on these lecture things. And the only way they can do that and survive is by demonizing everything, that's normal, that's traditional, anything that has to do with the white male, anything that has to do with heterosexuals or people who believe in God. And most of that's coming from the homosexuals on the left, whether they want to admit it or not. A lot of this hatred and these attacks on society and stuff are coming from them. It's just like when Obama was president. I'm going to boycott the Olympics, not go over there to Russia because Putin's arresting drag queens. Cared more about that agenda and all that kind of shit, passing gay rights and all this other stuff. Pushing for gay marriage and all that kind of, that was he didn't make no jobs. I didn't see him do anything for the African American community. I didn't see him bring jobs back for the African Americans. So all you people out there, you got this, you're a social justice warrior and all this and everything else. Go find a country who needs it. Go down to Mexico. Or if you just want to be a socialist, you don't want to go change another country to becoming like this thing you want, then move to Canada. Do something. And constantly see more and more videos on YouTube of people screaming in the faces of cops. Saw one the other. This guy, he's calling the cop a blue-eyed devil and all this and everything, and just getting in his face, like daring the cop to do something. And the only reason he's braving up and manning up like that is because he knows the cop has orders, just to keep the peace and not engage or confront them. But I see a lot more in Portland. They are going after him because, hey, guess what? They went after the mayor and tried to burn the mayor's building down. So now they're finally snapping out of it and, not snapping out of it, I guess just trying to protect their own asses. But it's funny to watch Biden and the others that mayor in Portland trying to blame Trump. When Trump offered help to put an end to all the shit. So I say send in the Marines if you have to. Enough is enough. And people out there in Oregon are getting pissed off. They've had some rallies that have gone in there. I'm telling you, most of Oregon is conservative. And I think Trump's going to have a landslide, at almost every state, if not every state's going to be red on that election map this year. So anyway, wish you all the best out there. My half hour is up here, so I'm going to get going and wish you all the best out there. God bless. Be careful out on the road. Adios.